Iran is not falling apart. It's actually waking up during this time of war and time of crisis. What people don't understand is that throughout history, certain lands have been regarded not merely as geopolitical territories, but as energetic nexus points. And this is according to certain declassified and circulated government related materials, often referred to in alternative research circles as majestic documents or the majestic messages of disclosure. There are claims that official institutions have acknowledged classified knowledge concerning advanced technologies, non terrestrial intelligences, and strategically significant geographical sites, commonly linked to the alleged Majestic 12 framework. And these documents are presented as internal briefings for high level officials. And according also to axi-a-tonal Stargate seal ley line map that can be found in the book The Voyagers, The Secrets of Amenti, Volume 2, threshold regions where cosmology, mythology, and power converge together. In this framework, the region known today as Iran, historically rooted as Persia, is portrayed not simply as a nation undergoing socio-political unrest, but as a liminal axis, a custodial site with esoteric traditions would describe as a sealed stargate or a frequency portal. Within this narrative, Iran is positioned at a strategic metaphysical stronghold. The war that we see happening with protests, military tensions, and regional instability, it's framed as surface level manifestations of a deeper contest over energetic sovereignty. Mainstream reports confine itself to observable political issues, while metaphysical esoteric discourse speculates about a larger underlying struggle for control of what is termed as Stargate number 10, an access point whose governance confers planetary influence and travel between interdimensional spaces. The Stargates, seals, axi-a-tonal, and ley line map presents an alternative cartographic model. Rather than outlining political borders, it depicts the world's energetic grid structured by axial lines converging at nodal intersections. Modern day Iran today, historically known as Persia, you see on the map it's labeled as Stargate number 10. Within this framework, it signifies a principal convergence zone, an asserted intersection of ley lines and axial-atonal pathways, functioning as the geographic anchor, and this Stargate allegedly is still open, accessible, and active, and this is why the war is happening. In mythopoetic language, ancient Persia is reimagined as a prelapsarian access node, an origin site within a sacred geography predating civilizational fall. The name Abaddon, drawn from apocalyptic literature, is sometimes invoked to describe this locus point as both a gateway and a battleground. And within this cosmology, the portal is said to have been utilized by rebellious celestial intelligences, often characterized in theological mythology as the fallen angels, to distort archetypal balances. Now, specifically, this distortion is described as the suppression of the solar masculine principle and the marriage of the divine feminine principle, resulting in the projection of martyr codes or sacrificial archetypes through the energetic field that is associated with this region. From an academic standpoint, such interpretations belong to the domain of cosmology and mythic geopolitics rather than empirical historiography. They reflect a synthesis of apocalyptic literature, esoteric metaphysics, and contemporary political events into a unified narrative. Whether comprehended metaphorically as commentary on power, ideology, and sacred geography, or comprehended literally within alternative cosmologies, the discourse reframes Iran not solely as a nation state in turmoil, but as a contested access with the larger metaphysical cartography. So therefore, The most ancient structures function as navigational objects that create a planetary reference system. The point of origin is the Great Pyramid of Giza, where that meridian line is described as the true prime meridian of the Earth. The key nodes of this system include Tutankhamun, Tiwanaku, Baalbek, Angkor, Nan Madol, Stonehenge, Easter Island, Samapata, and Uluru. These sites define the mathematical framework of the system, which is said to be based on the angles of regular geometric forms and other mathematical constants in the cosmological geography and geometry of the world. These ancient structures are so monumental as to why they were erected in unusual locations and why such remarkable technologies were employed, but the evidence now point to what appears to be a worldwide planetary-sized energetic generator. The essential point is this: the presence of a unified system in all these monuments in the placement of their ancient sites, it's something that has puzzled many researchers, and it indicates activity on our planet at a scale that we cannot comprehend, at least in the distant past, by a civilization that was unknown to us, whose capabilities are difficult to overestimate. If you look at this 1675 map with the title A Geographical Map of the World After the Flood, you see that there's locations in between the continents that this is the reason why all of the interest should be going underneath the water instead of trying to look into so-called outer space, which is fake. There's things under the water that we need to be checking out and investigating. If you leave out Atlantis, shown near North America, the map shows the coastal parts of continents that have gone underwater in recent years. The Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea are connected into one body of water. What is worth paying attention to, the map is drawn as if the author witnessed the events or he redrawn them from more ancient maps. What archaeologists today are now finding underwater is perfectly overlaid on this map. And then there is this map of the Atlantic Ocean floor published in 1968 based on a large number of deep ocean soundings. America is Atlantis, the lost continent of advanced people. This means that here in America is not so much of a mystery anymore as we read in the book American Antiquities. It says, the ocean separating Europe and Africa from America is yet called the Atlantic Ocean. Our literal states are called the Atlantic states. The Atlantes of North Africa, who gave their name to the Atlas Mountains and whose descendants exist there as yet under the names of Tariks, Berbers, Shelu, Shoya, and etc., were one of the primitive nations of both continents. They came to America soon after the flood, if not before, colonized and named the ocean and the islands included with it, as well as America, which was called the Great Atlantis, or rather Atala, meaning the first or mainland. This name is preserved in Hindu traditions. The Atlantes were not only the primitive colonists of America, but they were the most conspicuous and civilized. Their true name was Atalans. They may have been the founders of Atulum and many other ancient cities here in North America. The main Atlantis, although possessing many affiliated cities, is sunken in the middle of the Atlantic. Portugal has exclusive economic rights over the Atlantis remains, the Azores archipelagos. And as we read also in ancient mystic Oriental Masonry, it says America, known to the mystics as Atlantis, when this ruin befell, was the seat of the greatest empire that ever existed, and its irresistible armies were terrorizing all of Europe and Asia. It will appear that while all that is sublime in the historic past centers upon Egypt, all that is sublime in the prehistoric past centers upon America, Atlantis. And as the curtain, which has hitherto concealed the prehistoric connection between the peoples of ancient Egypt and of America, it is lifted, it will be seen that the people of the eagle on the Nile, being descended from the original people of the eagle on this continent, the twain are one, and the prehistoric America was the original Egypt, or the Eagle Land. And as we conclude, the pattern expands beyond submerged continents and anomalous cartography into the broader framework that we established earlier. The planetary grid, the nodal convergent points, and the so-called stargates within this grid framework. Atlantis is not merely a sunken landmass. It is right here, right now. It is interpreted as a central node in an energetic architecture. The megalithic sites, the meridian alignments, and the vortex points from a lattice all come together. Within that lattice are designated convergence zones, stargates, intersections of axi-a-tonal and ley line pathways. These are described not only as mechanical portals, but as geometric aperture points, where the terrestrial geometry, magnetics, and cosmology overlap and unify. And in that context, the Atlantic basin itself becomes more than an ocean. It becomes a collapsed hub. If the main Atlantis once stood at the center of this network, its submergence would represent not only a geological catastrophe, but a severing or a sealing of primary stargates within the planetary grid. The surviving nodes, whether in the Atlantic, in Iran, identified as Stargate 10, or at other vortex coordinates, would then be remnants of a once integrated system. Seen through this lens, ancient navigation monuments, flood maps, megalithic alignments, and submerged topography are not disconnected mysteries. They become fragments of a planetary infrastructure, one that implies coordinated knowledge of geometry, geography, geology, and energetic nodal points that would connect the ancient cultures directly to the source of the ether. So the closing inquiry here is not merely whether Atlantis existed, it's that we still live in Atlantis. We still live on Atlantis. We live on a once functioning, still functioning, interconnected grid of stargates, sealed, submerged, or still active. And whether humanity stands not at the beginning of discovery of this, but at the threshold of rediscovery, and that the powers that be do not want the public to know this, which is why everything we are taught is a lie, and why all of these world powers are going to war right now.
Across every continent on Earth, from the Great Pyramid of Giza to Machu Picchu to the temples of Angkor Wat, one pattern keeps appearing. They all align perfectly along a single invisible line that wraps around the planet. A line some researchers call the World Energy Grid, ancient builders thousands of miles apart. No contact, no shared language, no modern tools, yet they built monuments with perfect geometry, aligned to the same coordinates. Coincidence? Or a design far older than recorded history? When these sites are mapped together, a hidden pattern appears, a network of temples, pyramids, and megaliths forming exact geometric ratios, the same patterns found in sound frequencies and magnetic fields. It's as if the ancients knew the Earth itself was alive, and these temples were built to channel its energy. Modern scientists studying these regions have detected electromagnetic spikes, bursts of energy that match the placement of these sacred sites. The same pattern Nikola Tesla described when he said, "Earth itself is a conductor of energy." But here's where it gets even stranger. Ancient texts describe the planet as a living grid, a web of power used to open gates to the stars. In Egypt, they called it the path of the gods. In South America, the lines of the sun. In China, the dragon veins. Different names, different eras, same design. Were they all following the same blueprint passed down from a forgotten civilization? And if every temple on Earth connects to this grid, then maybe these monuments weren't built to honor the gods. Maybe they were built to communicate with them.